I turned 30 last month and I'm feeling reflective, so let's talk about the beginner makeup mistakes that I made in my 20s. So I would say that I really got into makeup in 2016. In college, I had the OG Naked palette and I worked that to the bone. And maybe I had like a black liquid liner, but 2016 is when I was like, okay, I'm gonna build out like my beginner makeup kit. Like I want to learn more about looks. And I think that's because I feel like now we're looking back and everyone's so nostalgic for 2016 in the beauty community because it was just like the rise of full glam and all these like beauty YouTubers. And it was really like the heyday of the beauty community. And personally, it was my like beauty awakening because in 2016, I started working at Tarte Cosmetics in marketing. And that was just a crazy time to be at Tarte. You could not escape Shape Tape if you tried. It was like the hottest product. Every major influencer was using it. And I was just like kind of thrown into that world. And suddenly I'm getting all of these free products because it's just like a kind of gratis box in the office. It's like, take what you want. And I didn't really use that much makeup before this. I think I was more into like a glossy kind of phase. I think they started maybe the year before or 2 years before that. And I was doing really like concealer, a little bit of cloud paint, the like halo scope for a little glowy touch, but that was it, like very minimal. And then suddenly I'm home with like foundations and like really thick full coverage concealers, and I'm just kind of learning how to navigate this new world. So therein lies my first makeup mistake, which was wearing foundation just because everyone else was. Like if you looked up a makeup tutorial, it'd be like, okay, primer, and then you're gonna go in with like your 2-3 pumps of foundation. And I was like, yep, got it, squirt, squirt, squirt. And I didn't really think about like, I didn't like the feeling of it to begin with. And I didn't really need it. I mean, I had blemishes. I was like 21, 22, who didn't? But, you know, spot concealing would have been just fine. But I was just globbing it on like everyone else and not really considering my own personal preferences. And I think you'll see that's a big theme of my makeup mistakes, is just kind of like following what everyone else is doing without thinking about, do I actually like this? Is this like flattering for me? So I'm really grateful that now there's just such a wide range of like types of foundations and coverage. I'm really into skin tints if I do wear any kind of a base product now. And today I'm just wearing that glowy super gel from Saie in like the bronzy one. And that one gives me like the tiniest hint of coverage. But I like that now I just feel more comfortable and like, yeah, I'm going to be wearing color products, like I'm going to do blush and eyeshadow, but if my skin's not 100% even, like I don't really care. That's just not a concern for me at this moment. Who knows? I could totally change. That doesn't mean I feel like superior to my past self because I'm wearing my flaws. Like one's not better than the other, but I do like that I'm not forcing myself to have this like heavy foundation on just for, not for even for myself, just for like society, I guess. So these days, usually what I'll do is I'll just put a little bit of a concealer that's like my skin tone to spot conceal if I feel like it. I'll mostly just do my under eyes. And I feel like I have a really good shade match in this one from Kulfi. I have the glossy guava shade, and it has a bit more of like orange in it, so I feel like it color corrects and kind of masks darkness really easily without also using a separate color correcting product. I also feel like I never got into foundation before because I was, you know, just a broke like high school, college student. And the only things I could shop were really drugstore, and good luck finding a color match in drugstore if you're like darker than like a light tan. It's just like, they just assume your undertones are orange or like brick red, and you got like 2-3 shades to choose from. And of course it's like improved since then, but it's really hard when you can't try stuff on in the drugstore. That, I remember that confused me so bad. I was like, how am I supposed to know if it works if you can't even try the product? And they're just like, ma'am, you can't open that in the store. Okay, so the second mistake that I made was applying products the way that I saw on social media, like the very aesthetic. We're gonna put on every layer of like blush and concealer and contour all at once in like little dots, or maybe draw like a heart or something. And I was like, okay, jot that down. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. But it's really just a way to like, I guess, feed the algorithm. Like it's very pleasing to look at or like confusing to look at, one of the two. Either way, it gets people looking. And I just kind of was like looking at that as a reference and not really thinking about, okay, this is really looking kind of muddy and chunky and heavy on me. And why could that be? So of course, influenced by social media, I had to buy the Charlotte Tilbury contour wand, and thankfully she had another shade that was actually would work on my skin tone. But I would just go in with like the big old dots on my face, and it blends out easily enough, thank goodness, but I still didn't need that much product. So I'm still gonna do it here because sometimes it is just fun to do the dots. So that's another thing. Like, yes, there are some silly things on social media, but if it makes you happy, you know, just go for it, even if it's not the most optimal or practical application of a product. And this kind of leads into another makeup mistake I was making, which was I never considered my face shape. Like, I wasn't really seeing a lot of super round face creators back then. And so I would just place my contour, my bronzer the exact same way that they were. I mean, it looked fine, but since I discovered like placement techniques for round faces, like this kind of just like scoops underneath your cheeks, and I love the way that it looks. It's funny because I remember like in 17 magazine and stuff, in those beauty sections, they would have those face charts for like, you know, round, square, rectangle shaped faces. And I feel like with social media just kind of homogenized makeup application, because I feel like the creators that are big are kind of like have like slimmer faces, and you just kind of see mostly one type of perspective of how to apply makeup. And I just forgot what I'd seen all through my teen years in those magazines. So definitely for this product, I still apply it directly onto my face most of the time just because it's so easy. But if I'm using like a cream bronzer that's in a pan, I will just dip right into the product and then buff it out on my palm just to evenly disperse the product. But thankfully this Charlotte Tilbury wand is so sheer and blends so easily that it's like not the worst thing in the world to just glob on a bunch of product onto your face. It's not gonna embarrass you like that. It's not gonna do you dirty. I'm feeling spicy. Let's do a little nose contour. Cute. And like really just recently have I begun trying to enhance my round face rather than working against it and trying to just camouflage all of the chubbiness and roundness. Like, it's very cute, and I'm happy to have my little cheeks. So I don't need to try and pretend that I'm Bella Hadid because I'm not fooling anybody, and I like myself. So I really like this Danessa Myricks Vision Flush Glow. I've got the shade Majesty in her highlighter formula, and this kind of coppery glow, it goes so well with that saie bronzy one. I hadn't really tried a highlighter this shade. I mostly stick to golds for my skin tone, but this, I use it so much in the summer, and I think in the fall it's still really pretty. All right, let's do a little bit of eyes. Oh my gosh, eyes have been in just an uphill battle for me my entire life because I never really understood what to do with my eye shape. Like, if I'm just looking at you straight, you can see how my fold just kind of comes up and just obscures whatever is on my tiny little lid. So I've been really working against that my whole life, but I kind of play around with just like embracing having the hooded eyes versus trying to just like create a crease that isn't there. And it kind of just depends what look you're going for. I mostly just do a one and done kind of look because doing more intricate eyeshadow looks with my hooded eyes just like really intimidates me. And a lot of the times when I try to do it, I get very overwhelmed and then discouraged when it doesn't turn out how I like. But I realized one thing that I was doing wrong is that I was using brushes way too big for my eyes. So I was using brushes with this like enormous head all the time, like to blend, to lay down product, all of that. And now I've switched to kind of using this smaller brush for when I'm trying to get really intricate details in like the outer corners. And it's made such a big difference. It's just a little difficult because if you go to the drugstore to buy like an eyeshadow brush set, you're gonna get brushes this big and it doesn't really take into consideration people who have like smaller eyes or less lid space to work with. So right now I'm just gonna do my kind of usual look, which is using a bigger fluffy brush to put down some bronzer all over. I did put on eye primer. Whew. The mind is a sieve. Nice. Oh, I forgot to set under my eyes. Even in 2016, I did not get into baking because I knew that like my skin was dry, and if I did that, I would be looking like the Geico gecko. All right, and now instead of using the same large brush and possibly muddying my outside corners, I'm gonna take a smaller brush and just go into maybe this deeper shade, just to add a little dimension. I hope when I'm 40, I can make this video again and talk about all I've learned about doing my eyeshadow and making like very intricate looks. But right now I gotta keep it simple so I don't get frustrated. Because makeup's supposed to be fun, and I have plenty of fun with my simple eyeshadow looks. But I'm gonna try and venture out just a little bit, not put too much pressure on myself, but in December I hope to do some fun looks, amp it up on this channel a bit. You can see I've been able to add dimension, but it's like very controlled here. With that bigger brush, it would have just gotten way blown out. I'm gonna take this little smudgy end of the brush and put some bronzer underneath my eyes. That is an area that I wanna play with more. Like people with hooded eyes, we still have all this space underneath here. And I do really like kind of putting just a colorful liner underneath my eyes, but I still feel like there's more we can do. Kind of tying into that part about wanting to do more adventurous eyeshadow looks is that I was making the mistake of buying makeup products for my ideal self and not my actual self, like the Gianna that kind of wants to be out the door in like 20 minutes and isn't going to be using like 5-6 eyeshadows in a look, but I'm still buying all these colorful palettes. And then I'm just staring at them with analysis paralysis because I can't think of what shades go together, and then I just default to my one and done. So then they just sit there looking at me like, what did you buy us for? What is our purpose? I'm just gonna put this shade all over. Auburn. For blush today, let's try an application method for round faces. Dispersing it on the hand so that I don't get shocked when I apply it to my face. And I'm just gonna do it like in a little circle, kind of bringing it high underneath my eye. Concentrating it on the apples of my cheeks. Because usually I'll go like here, and I still do like that because I do have just a little bit of just roundness all the way through, but I find this look is like, this application method is really cute. Ugh. Didn't rub it off enough that time. I'm also so glad that I switched to getting lash lifts, because even though I have really nice lash curlers now, like I was using pretty cheap, crappy ones for a lot of my life, and when I would go to get my lash lift, they were like, have you been curling your lashes? Because they are broken and stubby. And I was like, ooh, I didn't know you could tell. And so that kind of shamed me into just using my lash curler very sporadically if I'm like in between lash lift appointments. And I also have very sensitive eyes, so I try not to wear mascara a lot anyway. So I like that now on most days I can just not wear mascara and my lashes are already lifted, and it just makes me feel more awake and prettier, and I don't have to risk, my eyes getting irritated by mascara. And I'm a big eye rubber and I have allergies, so I'm always just going at my eyeballs, and it's better if there's not mascara on them, which will just irritate my eyes even more. So I'm a big lash lift advocate. They're definitely a major luxury though, don't get me wrong, but I pretty much only spend money on my hair and lash lifts. I was gonna say and makeup, but I actually haven't bought that much makeup this year. I went on a low buy early this year in the spring, and it was like relatively easy to do because my collection was just so big. I was very unfamiliar with a lot of it. Sometimes, I wouldn't even be able to see a product for months because it's just hidden under so many other products, which is why I'm so glad that I recently decluttered a whole bunch that were just taking up space and not giving me any joy. I think that's another makeup mistake that I made early, is that when you're first getting into makeup and you really don't have a bunch, it's just so exciting to finally be buying a whole bunch of things, trying out so many different products. It's really like a whole nother world has opened up. And I think I just went a little ham, especially because I was working my first job that was like in the beauty industry. And so I was getting my like first real paycheck, and I was like, you can make this much money. And it was not a lot, but I still went crazy that first Black Friday, and I just had so much makeup. And that's when I realized that it's just not possible to use all of it, especially like creams. They're just gonna sit there and go bad. And that's really like one of the worst feelings for me. So now I kind of feel like I have everything that I really need. Something has to really jump out at me, like be a very unique color that isn't in my collection. And I actually have a note going in my phone of like products that I'm on the lookout for. Like I want to add a peach, like a matte peach blush to my collection, preferably powder. And so I'm just on the lookout for that. And I know that anything else outside of what I've gotten written there is a want. And sure, I can go for it if it's really eye-catching and I know it'll bring me happiness, but it just helps me kind of corral my focus when there are a bunch of sales going on. I know what I'm actually looking for. Very random, but I just used the shade Ginger in here. I put it on my inner corner, And then I just kept going to my nose at my Cupid's bow, and it is so pretty. So I think I need to start using lighter shimmery eyeshadows as highlighters because that's stunning. You know, I was gonna add a winged liner, but I think I like how this looks because of the darkness out here. I don't think it needs it. I really like having a brown liquid liner. I used black liquid liner for a lot of my life, like probably till I was like 25. I just wasn't even really aware that there were other options, and it's just a little bit harsh. And I feel like the brown really brings out my eyes, and it's just a softer everyday look. So if you haven't considered a brown liquid liner, I'd definitely give it a go. But I'll just finish up with a little spritz of MAC Fix Plus. This is not a lesson learned. I've known this since day one. This is amazing. It will kind of just cover up any of your makeup sins if you've done too much powder or anything, and just melt everything together and look lovely. And I'll finish it up with another thing I've done right since 2016, and that's using the NYX Butter Glosses. Praline has been my go-to shade for so long. It kind of just goes with everything if you have my skin tone, and you know, don't have to think too hard. What lip am I gonna wear? Praline. All right, I'm so happy with how this look turned out, and it was so much fun talking about how my makeup preferences have changed and what I've learned along the way, thinking back to 21, 22-year-old Gianna and how she was just discovering the world of makeup. This was really fun. So thank you so much for watching, and let me know how your makeup preferences have changed. What have you learned? Is there there's definitely still stuff that I can learn, so drop some tips in the comments, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.